Congresswoman Mary Miller, thank you so much for joining the Terry Schilling Show.
Well, you're welcome. I really appreciate you and the work you're doing and the life you're living, that you're not a hypocrite. You're living out what you're promoting.
I'm just doing what God has blessed me with. I'm doing as much as I can, but I really wanted to have you on because I need real advice. My eldest daughter, Grace, she just got engaged. She's getting married next year. She's 20. She found the love of her life. And my friends are all teasing me because they realize that I'm probably going to be the first out of our friend group to become a grandfather. Yeah. And so I wanted to get you on to get advice on the grandparent life and how do you do it? Like, what are your top tips and tricks for being a good grandparent?
Well, of course, most of our children live close to us on the farm.
Yes.
And they go to church with us. So we have Sunday dinners together, the old-fashioned Sunday dinner. So I think sharing a meal table. Is your daughter going to live close?
It's undetermined yet. So
okay. Well, just spending time together. But I think technology is awesome because you can FaceTime. Like this morning, yes. I always pick out at least one child or grandchild to send encouragement to every day, or a scripture verse and that kind of thing. But
I love it.
For opportunities.
You know, my mom still has the Sunday family dinner, and she's obviously out in the Midwest now, and I'm out here, and I get these videos and pictures, and I'm so jealous every time I see them. I think that's probably the best advice I've gotten so far.
Well, everybody can, if their extended family isn't close, they can gather their immediate family and then look out to the community and have other people to invite, and they can make it a tradition.
Well, you've been crushing it in Congress with the Family Caucus and all of the legislation you're doing to protect our children from gender ideology and from online adult content. Yeah. I want to get into those issues and unpack what's been going on in Congress, obviously, but what's been driving your passion behind these? Because you do stand out amongst everyone else in Congress as the champion for the American family.
Well, like you, I'm a recipient of God's grace, and I'm very grateful. And in 2 Corinthians 5, the Apostle Paul reminds us that we're called to be his ambassadors. And so, I want to proclaim, it says in Psalm 18, that God's ways are perfect. And he's called us to the abundant life, and that's relationships and work, in my opinion. And God's defined the marriage as a husband and wife committed to each other for life. And it's a glorious thing that I want to exalt. It's not a relic of the past. It's the cornerstone of civilization and the foundation of our country, faith and family. And the family has been under attack for decades and diminished. Yes. And we are beyond the point of standing up for the American family. So that's why I started the Congressional Family Caucus. We have 46 members, and we're working with many groups like yours that are helping us come up with fantastic legislation to strengthen the family.
What I love about coming to you for help on these issues that come up is we're never told no. It's always, okay, how do we do this? Yeah. And how, okay, here we can talk to these people. Yeah. You guys are just go-getters and you get things done. And so many people in this town, they just want to talk.
Well, obviously the economy impacts the family. So not setting that aside, but we do need to acknowledge that marriage rates have plummeted, birth rates are down, and other Western civilizations maybe are on the point of no return. Japan is for sure. And we don't want to end up that way. And, I think, first of all, we need to give people a reason to want to be married.
Yes.
And so we need to exalt the family, and same with having children, but also make it economically feasible for them. And so that's why having a robust economy and affordable housing, those are top priorities for us.
Well, you said something earlier in the show and even off camera before we started filming about the two attacks that the Marxists have had against our relationships with one another, which obviously the family is the heart of it's the first community we all belong to. It's the first relationships we ever have. But then you also brought up that they attack the dignity of work.
Yes.
And I can't help, I'm pessimistic about the AI era, right? I have a lot of skepticism because a lot of the things they're promising us are really terrible. And it's like, wait, where are the good things? But I do believe that if we can figure out how to make AI a tool for humanity and not humanity the tool of AI, I think it'll be great. But I will say that about a year and a half ago, a group from Anthropic AI was in town, and they were talking about how AI is going to eliminate like 90% of all jobs, as if it was
Yeah,
a good thing.
I know.
And I immediately thought, holy cow, like all these people are going to lose their purpose in
Hmm.
life. We derive so much from work. And I actually think work was always part of the plan with
Right.
God, because God's always working himself.
I do
And
too.
as you said, as the Bible says, his plans are perfect. So what's your take on AI and the tech world? And is there a way out of this where we can start using these technologies to actually strengthen our relationships
Mhm.
and increase the dignity of work?
Well, I do think technology is going to bring transformational change, and the Christian should not back out of the conversations. We need to have the conversations. And just like talking about work, I heard Alexander Solzhenitsyn's son give a speech recently, and he was talking about the decline of Western civilization. And he said, we've forgotten about the evil that lies in the heart of men. And God's given us solutions to deal with it. But one of the things is to work and to be occupied. And, I think a lot of our social ills is because we have paid too many people not to work.
Yes.
So we do need to figure that out. Yeah,
Yes.
that's coming fast.
And a lot of the jobs that we have out there today
Mhm.
are not meaningful jobs, right?
No.
I mean, you were telling me earlier that you've got grandkids that are becoming apprentices, they're
Yes.
becoming electricians.
Yeah.
Those are the jobs that a lot of times I'm envious of those
Right.
people, because they have jobs where they're actually building things, where they get done and
Mhm.
they've actually can see what they've accomplished that day. There's just so much that we derive from work
Yes.
in terms of our value as human beings.
Well, I think there's still going to be a lot of opportunities out there, and President Trump recognizes this. He wants to promote the trades, and
Yes.
he is doing that, so that's great. And so I feel hopeful, but when I travel the district, I know that a lot of the community colleges and the schools are trying to um, present to the junior high and high school students an array of opportunities for careers instead of just thinking, well, I have to go to college, I'm going to major in psychology, and then I'm going to go work at Starbucks. I mean,
We have too many
and,
psychologists.
and then basically carry the ball and chain of school debt around that they never should have entered into.
Some of the kids I talked to today, including my daughter's friends,
Hmm.
the amount of student loan debt that they've
Yeah.
already amassed, even though they haven't graduated college yet, is it's almost
Yeah.
criminal how much they're taking advantage of these kids.
I know. Well, I have a lot of ideas on that. For one thing, the colleges should have to carry at least half the debt instead of
Yes.
the government and the taxpayers being on the line for it. But the colleges would be way more reticent to encourage extraordinary debt to get degrees that they will never be able to justify paying, being able to pay back.
They'd probably also not have as many people that fail out of school or drop out of school.
true.
Harvard
Yeah.
definitely wouldn't have remedial courses anymore. All right.
But we are on the precipice of change. There's a lot of conversations there. And, our education secretary recognizes that. A
Yes.
lot of people are talking about changing the way we do education. And for one thing, God did not create us, He created us all unique.
Yes.
And with unique gifts and talents, and people mature at different ages and this and that. And so we should not have a cookie cutter education system. And I do believe President Trump and his education secretary, and then many of us that are speaking to the issue, we are looking at it in a completely different way. So I'm excited about it.
I love that you pointed it out, because first of all, I've always believed that we need way more moms, way more grandmas in Congress than we do PhDs, period. But you said something that I think really mothers understand more than anyone, which is that we're all so different.
Right.
You see it up close and personal. You see mothers and grandmothers are actually, I think, experts on human beings and humanity, because you see how good, you see the potential for goodness and also the potential for badness, regardless of the environment a kid's raised in. We all have our shortcomings, and no one knows those shortcomings and potential for greatness.
And I
than
do
moms.
believe teachers see it too.
Yes.
But they have been mandated into the box also. I know my sister's a career teacher, and I was asking her a couple years ago about what good books she was reading to the students, because I was thinking I would incorporate them. And she goes, books? She goes, we don't read books anymore. And basically they're told line by line, what they have to say, what mandates they have to adhere to. And I remember her lamenting because she's a special ed teacher. She said, I could teach this boy math if I was allowed to move him back to the level where he is. But, they've kind of hamstrung the schools too with all these mandates. And so anyway, it's an opportunity for a lot of conversations and to look to improve. That's one thing that really bothered me since Obama was elected and then under Joe Biden. It's just the trashing of our country.
Yes.
Instead of using the energy to say, wow, this is the best there ever has been in the history of civilization in light of measuring freedom and opportunities, but it's not utopia. And I'm going to use my energy and I'm going to try to make it better.
Yes.
And I think that's what I want to do.
No, look, it's one thing to be critical of your nation. In fact, I think you have a hard time arguing that you actually love your country if you can't be critical of it. But they're so cynical. They're so pessimistic. They don't have an optimism in the future for America to actually change, get back to its basics and enter a new era where everyone can flourish.
That cynicism is being promoted, though. Well, obviously the media and different, social media influencers, but through the public school. And, that's one of the things that I'm very impassioned about is the curriculum. And we're not going to see improvement until we see a lot of competition in the education market.
I want to talk with you also about some of the victories we've had in Congress recently. Obviously, the Supreme Court just sided with us on protecting girls' sports. One thing I'm concerned about, though, is that essentially they just upheld our women's sports laws as constitutional. They didn't strike down any of the gender identity laws that are putting boys and girls sports in the blue states. Do you have optimism that if the courts hear challenges to President Trump's executive orders, that they'll side with us? And where do we go from here to make sure that, we're up to 27 states now that are protecting girls sports? Are you optimistic that we'll be able to protect girls in all 50 states?
Well, I'm optimistic because public opinion has changed.
Yes.
And people are recognizing there is a real thing as gender dysphoria, but what we've seen in the last few years is social contagion.
Yes.
There is no way that all these of our youth all of a sudden have gender dysphoria. And I think that they've raised our children to be victims. And so this was another category for victimhood, and children that have had upheaval in their life or whatever the reasons were. They were confused. To have adults affirming a lie was a complete tragedy, but people are walking that back. They're seeing, and I so respect Chloe Cole. The first time I met her, she was maybe 17 and she just seemed like a little wounded bird. And I've just seen her blossom, and she has so much confidence, and she's speaking truth into this, and she's sharing her story about how it was abuse of her. And even her own parents were told, you can either choose to have a dead daughter or a live son. And they entered into that whole process. I think they started the hormones at 12. She had a radical mastectomy at 16, and at 17, she realized she'd made a mistake. And so these stories are getting out, and the American people, the sentiment is changing. So that's why I'm very hopeful.
I love how you said radical mastectomy at 15. That is exactly, because mastectomies are for cancer victims.
Right.
But they're giving them to these kids as cosmetic surgeries. It's absolutely radical.
I know.
And by the way, you're exactly right. At Chloe Cole, your smile's huge, but I've never seen a bigger smile than Chloe Cole's when she's bringing this message. Because I think ultimately she is realizing that God can make all things new and actually can use anything for his good. And I just, out of all the beautiful souls I've met in this game and this world and this career, I think Chloe's is one of the most beautiful.
Well, and she is being very impactful here. So yes, I'm hopeful, but I think it's a story and it's a picture of how we can never be passive. Just like Riley Gaines, that was outrageous what happened to her at the swim meet, and then to have that man to get the award, and he was trotting around in the locker room completely undressed. He was 100% a man, and then the school threatened her and told her if she spoke up, she would never get a job. It would follow her the rest of her life. but she was courageous. Look, if these young women can be this courageous, the rest of us that are claiming the name of Christ, conservative, we stand for American values, we have to be bold, and we cannot stop either. Every generation's had its battles to fight.
Yes.
And we cannot be so wimpy and scurry off in the corner and sit down and shut up. That's what they want us to do. We're not doing it.
Congresswoman, I could not agree with you more. I got invited to an embassy party at the embassy to the Holy See in Rome.
Wow.
I just got back this past weekend, and you go see the Colosseum, and you do just a little bit of digging about all these Christians that were just brutally murdered in front of tens of thousands of people, fed to lions, fed to the alligators, like brutally murdered, beheaded, had their hearts ripped out. And we're afraid to speak up about boys and girls sports or kids getting sex rejection procedures that sterilize immediately. We got to man up as Christians in America, period.
So I think that we need to redefine what love is.
Yes.
I've thought this for a long time. Even when I was raising my children, I would tell them, look, love gives someone what they need, not necessarily what they want.
Yes.
And Dad and I are going to give you what you need.
Yes.
And people need the truth. Number one,
100%.
Our children need it, and that's what we need to proclaim in the culture. And the truth is that you cannot change your sex.
Yes.
So you can mutilate a body, you can dress, pretend, whatever, but whatever your sex was at birth, that is what you'll be. That's what every cell in your body is, and we have to proclaim the truth.
Well, Victor Hugo, he's the author of Les Miserables. He adds something extra to say to that, which he says that you can give without loving, but you can't love without giving. And that true love requires some type of sacrifice, whether it's small or large. But ultimately, when you say that love makes the world go round, it ultimately is those little and big sacrifices that parents give, that grandparents give, that children give to their younger siblings. And I think that of all the things that we should be free giving, you said it best, is the truth.
Well, we've become mushy gushy.
Yes.
And the Supreme Court ruling yesterday and Amy Coney Barrett's
Criminal.
terrible, but it's mushy gushy.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but if you come here illegally and have a baby here, that baby is not a citizen. And there's no way that that was the intention of the framers of the 14th Amendment.
No, it's okay. So let me get this straight from the Supreme Court and the American courts. We don't have the right to determine who can come here and who can't. Okay, we can deal with that. But now we can't determine who becomes citizens. Like, it's one thing to not to be able to determine who can visit here and who can come here and be here on a work visa. Whole other thing for a nation not to be able to say, just because you were born here, you're not subject to the jurisdiction. You're not actually a citizen. It's subversion. It's a suicide pact. And
it is. No serious country would ever do this. So it's a shame. But there again, I think she's mushy gushy love.
Yes.
And the thing is, when you have to look at the intent and consider what it was like when they were writing this, 100%. This was intended for the children of slaves.
Period.
So,
no one else. It was not, and it wasn't even. It's a loophole. I've read into this a little bit, but it was a loophole that didn't start to really get taken advantage of until the late 70s, early 80s, and then it just never got addressed until President Trump had the courage to bring it up. I do want to talk about another victory that we just had, because you've been like the main champion of it in Congress, but we just passed the Screen Act.
yes.
It looks like we have a real shot at finally protecting children from adult content online. Where do we go from here? What still needs to be done? And because there's a lot of activists that pay attention and listen to this. What do they need to do?
Sure. Well, the Screen Act was part of a package of kids' online safety, and it passed. It's going to go to the Senate. So we'll see what happens there. But no matter, the Screen Act is such a good piece of legislation. Senator Lee is carrying it in the Senate, and then, of course, I had it in the House. If not, I want it put on the floor for a vote.
Yes.
I believe we'll have bipartisan support. Shame on anybody that would vote against it. It is, we are past due to have this kind of legislation. No other generation of children has been subjected to the kind of moral assault that they've gotten on the internet. And I know parents are trying, but with a few clicks of a button, children can access these porn websites. And the porn companies know. they are actually looking for their future customers. So my bill is going to require age identification technology or people to prove their age.
Yeah.
Other vices, or we have other things like you cannot buy a firearm without proving you're 18. You cannot buy alcohol, tobacco. You cannot gamble.
Nicotine. Yeah, that's
you
exactly
cannot
right.
go into an adult show without proving your age. And so all this is doing is putting a lock on that door until you show that you're 18. And then the porn companies can keep producing their filth, and the perverts can keep entering into that door. But our children under the age of 18 will not anymore. And I want to remind the listeners that the average age that children find pornography is 11, and 80% of American children by the time they're 17 have access to online pornography. And it's almost a huge amount of it is depicting violence
Yes.
towards women, and kids are picking up very bad ideas about sex. It's diminishing their desire to want to get married.
Yes.
Studies have shown that it contributes to anxiety, to depression, and to risky sexual behaviors. I mean, it is really an assault on their souls.
I think it's even worse. I think that it's leading young people to not even desire sex at all, which is like totally criminal. I mean, they're totally missing out on marriage and family and children.
Yeah.
But I do have to say I love the libertarians because they have the same skepticism about government that I do.
Yeah, me too.
But this isn't government. This is actually putting the onus on the porn companies, and they bring up online, oh, this is going to create a digital ID. Hold on.
Yeah.
You actually already have a digital ID. It's called a MAID number, mobile identifier advertiser identification number. They're tracking you. These private companies are tracking you. It's how they became trillion-dollar companies, is by buying and selling and collecting and tracking your data. And this is actually just saying to the porn companies, you can't deliver pornography or adult content without verifying that the person's over 18. It seems like the most common sense thing ever. And I'm very optimistic just because we've seen this in the States. We're up to 27 now. But there's something different about this fight than the trans fight in that it's nonpartisan. It's not even bipartisan. It's nonpartisan. In Virginia, Purple State, it passed with only 3 legislators in both chambers voting against it.
I'm glad you brought that up because multiple states have passed this. Texas passed it, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court upheld it. So it's good legislation. I do appreciate the people with concerns because I always have those concerns too. I'm, going through the airport. I don't like it that they want you to take your picture, which I never subject to, which I know they have cameras everywhere, but I appreciate their concerns. And also, I'm a very strong supporter of the First Amendment, but the First Amendment protections do not apply to obscenity.
Right.
And also, the first role of the government is to protect the people, and the most vulnerable is the first people that we should protect, which is our children. So, we do have to be aware of privacy issues, and I'm on board with that. But this is nothing except refusing to open the door for the porn company until they prove their age. And I do want to tell the listeners, I think they'll be interested in this. There is technology now that, for example, you could use it. My Screen Act would allow people to use this. When someone logs on, there will be, and they choose to use this form to identify their age. They're told to move their face off the screen and then to follow the hand prompts.
Yes.
And then a hand comes up on the screen and it folds and turns this way and that. They could tell your age from that.
No, it's got like a 99.7% accuracy rate because you mature after 18. You have that ability. No, and they have consumer research, or the consumer questions. There's like a million ways to verify you're over 18, but we're not doing it, and it's because there's an agenda here. But you gave this really powerful floor speech where you pointed out that the average age of first exposure to porn being 12 or 11, and it's exactly right. Parents need all the help they can get. I think Alito said this for the Paxton case. In what world are parents going to be more tech savvy than their children? We're up against multi-billion-dollar companies and industries. We need all the help we can get as parents, and we've tried it for 30 years, and now the average age is 12. something's got to change.
So I had a back and forth with a member that voted no on it, and he was concerned about like what's going to happen in the future. But he said it's up to parents, and I said parents are doing their best, and just like our family, our children didn't have cell phones. We had one desktop. We had all kinds of protections on it. We actually paid someone to come and check, and we told the kids, like we don't even trust ourselves. We set our lives up to be an open book,
Yes.
and this is part of it. But today is different. The cell phones are in the hands, and so the careful parent, their children are going to football, they're going to school, to the pool. Other kids have these phones and showing them.
Mm-hmm.
And back to the comment I made of Alexander Solzhenitsyn's son saying that we have forgotten about the evil that lurks in the heart of men. It lurks in children too.
Yes.
And children are curious.
Yes.
And so if your child doesn't have the cell phone, the other kids have it.
Right.
And, you're foolish if you think your kids are so perfect and would never be curious. And it is up to adults to protect our children.
Well, in one common thread that I've noticed about all the people that are against age verification is almost none of them have children themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because like you play this game. Okay, I'm a parent. I do 100% job of keeping all the filters and everything, which by the way, it's not very fair because those filters are not accurate. They block out a lot of non-adult content as well, hurting the non-porn companies. Just want to say that. But then I have to be even more restrictive on who my kids' friends are. Why can't we just have a world where everyone can go online and not accidentally run into porn or not easily access it? I don't think that's too much to ask. You should have to go to the tough end, the rough end of town to get adult services in the real world. It should be the same thing for the internet.
Right. And these same people, which first of all, they're going to be able to have access. All they have to do is prove their age. But if they're so afraid of being found out, maybe they should do some soul searching about what they're doing with their life anyway.
Yes. Well, I if I remember correctly, sometimes I don't remember correctly, you're a baseball fan, Cardinals fan, is that right?
Cubs.
You're a Cubs fan. I would not have guessed that. I'm a Cubs fan as well.
Oh, good.
But I don't know if you saw this recently. All of the Major League Baseball teams have been having Pride Nights as part of Pride Month. Thank God that's over, by the way. But there's one team, the Texas Rangers, that has the American Family Night. I thought that was so, and I'm pretty sure you've been promoting Making June National Family Month, which huge fan of. Why don't we have a month? We need a month. It sounds great. What is it with, there were some players in Major League Baseball that got in trouble for writing Bible verses. I think Genesis 9:12 or 9:13. What do you think is the draw for the left in constantly targeting professional sports?
Well, it has such a following.
Yes.
And, that's what it is. But they want to control everything, and they will if we're passive. We cannot be passive. God's told us to occupy until Jesus returns. We're told to overcome evil with good. We're to be ambassadors, and we're to be making disciples. I mean, there's no example in Scripture where, or anything to be quiet or passive.
Yes.
And I just think courage begets courage. Look at Riley Moore. Look at Chloe Cole. Look at President Trump.
Yes.
He's so courageous. He's taken on battles that have been kicked down the road for decades. I'm so glad that, we have him as president. He's so bold and courageous, and he takes it on the chin all the time, but he keeps moving forward and saying, why are we doing it this way? We could do better. Why are we accepting these terrible trade agreements?
Yes.
Being abused by other countries. I don't know. There's just so many things that he's taken on.
Yeah. No, it is incredible. And what you were saying earlier about parents having their work cut out for them, and like these previous guys before Trump came along, and they created an economy where both parents have to work.
Yeah.
Literally a less prosperous economy where you have to work more hours for less money. Yeah. It's crazy. Well, okay. I know we're a little bit tight on time, but you just had your first great grandchild. Is that right?
Yes.
What's the secret to that? I mean, because you obviously have passed enough love down to that first generation where they have kids. What are you telling your grandchildren to get them married, having kids early?
Well, of course, we always had our children in the scriptures, and so they could see that it's God's design to get married and to have children. And the other thing is, I believe God has God's designed sex to be a beautiful thing
Yes.
within the context of marriage. And so we encouraged abstinence, and that does,
Yes.
motivate people to want to get married instead of living together or having flings here and there. So,
Well, there's
I think
all
that's
these
very healthy.
There's all these studies that show that like the people that are most sexually satisfied are the ones that are married and they don't have thousands of partners.
Right.
And it makes a lot of sense because it's so personal and it's so intimate. And why would you want to share that with hundreds of or thousands of people when you should just be doing that stuff with your spouse? It's totally crazy.
The other thing we did is while they were growing up, I've spoken at different conferences, and I told parents that they need to decide what their goal is. And almost all parents, their goal is for their children to be happy. Yes. Our goal, which I believe is biblical, was that our children would be mature.
Yes.
And mature people are happy. People that are giving, they're happy. But to just pursue happiness, those kids are never happy.
Because they're never satisfied.
No,
they always want more.
But so I believe, which my kids are sinners, they need Jesus. I'm not trying to make them out to be more than they are, but I do believe my kids matured earlier than the kids that we see in our culture because we belittled immaturity, and we told them there's 3 aspects to maturity. One is wisdom. So that goes back to education and hopefully getting your children in the Word of God. The second thing is responsibility, at which we, as our kids grew, we kept giving them more and more responsibility. And the third thing is self-control and teaching them delayed gratification. And we need to bring those, that's another thing we need to exalt is that it's, people have laughed, Hollywood's laughed about it. People make songs, write songs, exalting immaturity. And we need to, talk about what a shame that is.
Yes. No, I couldn't agree more. And I think the other thing that's helpful that people don't realize, like you have a large family, I have a large family. You always get these comments of like, oh, it must be so difficult. I mean, some things are more difficult. It's more sacrificial for sure. But also some things are more easy, right? Like when you're raising children in a large family, it's very difficult for any of them to think the world's about them.
I know.
Right. They're a lot more other people oriented, which all of us could benefit to be more about other people than ourselves. But there is this just natural ecosystem that produces people who are more concerned about other people than they are themselves when you come from a large family.
Well, and they learn to get along with different personalities. Our children
people that really
all had to
can't
share a room with each other. And we lived on a budget. I'm not ashamed of that. I think it was so healthy for our children.
Yes.
We never carried money. We literally never gave our kids money. In fact, they were joking the other day that when they were thirsty, I would tell them to swallow their spit. But we would say, find a water fountain or wait. But I know, we didn't abuse our kids.
Yeah, no, of course,
very blessed.
Of course.
But, we taught them delayed gratification. When they were maybe 7th grade or so, they were thinking, I've got to have a business because they wanted money to buy their things. And they would start a mowing business. Our kids started giving piano and violin lessons. They started growing flowers and drying them and selling dried flower arrangements.
I'm stealing all of this right now.
I know.
Like
they had little bake shops.
Yeah.
And then that grew into things. They got their first checking accounts when they were like in 8th grade, and it was their own money. And like I remember my one daughter, she gave violin lessons. It was my youngest daughter, and she took $100 to go buy a pair of Birkenstocks. I remember.
Yes.
But she had smoke coming out of her ears, so she was little, or young. She was probably 14, 15. And because she spent almost $10 on sales tax in Illinois.
When it's your money, you care a lot more about it.
But they're learning life lessons. It's so good. And that does bring me to one more thing.
Yes.
I think paying for everything when our kids are in college is not healthy for our college kids.
Agree.
When I was getting ready to go to college and I was in high school, if I wasn't in sports, every free moment I was working a job. When I was in college, as soon as I got home, I started working 12 to 15 hours a day during the summer to pay for my things. And kids miss out so much on those jobs. You learn to be under authority.
Yes.
You learn to manage your time. You learn the value of money.
Yes.
You learn things about yourself. I'm a people person. I'm not a people person, or just so many life lessons. And there again, it goes back to the value of work.
Yes.
Work is good.
I'll never forget, it was the second semester in college for me I called my mom. I needed money. And she's like, I can do $100, but you're going to have to find a job.
Yeah.
And I hated hearing that, but I did go get a job and I got better grades.
Yeah.
I felt better about myself. I partied less. I took my college life much more seriously. I couldn't agree with you an ounce more.
All of my kids worked full time and went to school, and
it's important.
And
grow up as soon as you
busy people, to me, get more done. They learn to manage their time, and it's preparing them for life, because later on you end up with a career. If you want to be successful, you're going to put in more than 8 hours.
Yes.
When you add a family to it, now you're putting in
even more pressure.
24/7, basically.
Well, Congresswoman, where can people find you and follow all your great work? Because I shouldn't be your only, I know I'm not your only fan, but we need as much support we can get to you as possible.
Well, they could just Google my name and different things will show up, my official account, my campaign account, and I encourage them to follow me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining, and thank you for giving. You've already given the country so much with all your children and grandchildren, and your continued serve.
It's an honor.
Well, we love you and we need you. Okay. Don't go anywhere.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.